there I was with a bunch of dudes, and we set off, and that was our first run as a team called Part 4A. Now, my name's Salvatore, and I want to share with you something really, really exciting that kind of I learned and kind of came about. As you can see here, my first race post injury. Oh, oh, 1 minute. There we are. So, again, my name's Salvatore. I'm a simple and humble 9 to 5 office worker, which kind of plays into this, with aspirations of crossing the finish line faster than I ever thought possible, and kind of just shattering, self doubts and just, getting myself to another level. And kind of like why that's important is what I basically did or set out to do and share these lessons with you today was kind of how the universe helped me to achieve and work towards my goals to get to that next level. So kind of at the start of this, if you're someone interested who wants to get into running, what I would suggest is getting a Strava account. So if you've got like a Facebook or Instagram, you can actually use that to create your Strava account. Now, what is Strava? It's free. It's basically like Facebook for athletes. So every like time you go for a run, a bike ride, a swim, it logs the activity, tells you how much, like what you did, the time, the distance, the speed, and others can see it. And it kind of, what's important for you is you can use this as like accountability to yourself. And my Strava for reference is Salvatore Condello. So if you give me a follow, I'll give you a follow, and let's start a whole community of people running and just kind of inspiring each other to conquer mountains and conquer life. So the race I'm actually going to talk about today that was post-injury, like I said, is 4.5 Ks. And basically I'll take you through the race, but of course we'll kind of take a bit of a back step about how we kind of got to this point, which, as you can see, I'm going to step through, step one, how I got to this point, getting into a team itself and what that means, how to plan and prepare for the race, what the race day was and the analysis, which is really exciting. And then of course the results, and then I'll tie all this together, and you'll see how each of these steps builds upon each other to kind of get yourself to conquer a race or be in an event that really is conducive for your goals, and kind of how the universe can help you for achieving that, basically. So, prior injury. Okay, so what happened here was in December last year, I'd done a lot of running, and I kind of kept pushing myself. Every race had to be faster and faster or training run had to be faster and faster. And I did lots of like fast runs over a short period of time. And then before I knew it, I had basically injured myself, and I had to take a big time off from running. And then I was told that I would have to start running again, but do so in a slower manner, more controlled, having a plan, and kind of like doing in this process from January to now to July, or so July before this started, I had been doing what's known as a, zone two, a easy run, something between, for me, 5 minutes 30 and 6 minutes a K. Now that is a measurement of the time it takes for you to finish a kilometer. So obviously the higher that number is, the slower relative, that is. If you were to be faster, it's obviously going faster. If the time's lesser, it's correlated to that. But kind of like what was scary for me was that an interval run had kind of caused the issue of the injury in December. So kind of from January to July, or late, mid early July, I'd kind of just been simply doing these easier runs because I was kind of scared of introducing the idea of the speed. So what I'd done is kind of in the mid-July point, I had done 2 interval runs, obviously a week from each other. But basically an interval run is for me, a 1 kilometer, repetition, or 1 kilometer effort at a race pace, which for me is under 4 minutes a K, which is really quick. So you do that, you rest, do it another time, and then another 3 more reps. You do 5 total reps. And see, the thing is, after the second one, I had this kind of feeling in my leg that was kind of like the O moment. So as you can see, I had kind of like a slight scare. So to kind of be able to understand that, I took the time to see a physio because I was kind of scared that I have to start back again. But luckily, because I'd kind of been so like implementing discipline and being consistent in kind of building up over a long period of time, I was okay. But those runs, those interval runs, would not necessarily be as conducive for getting myself to the start line, because basically like I wanted to kind of condition myself for speed before the day so that it wouldn't be as overwhelming and taxing for my body. So I know with confidence I could tackle it. So by seeing this physio, he implemented, instead of doing this on off, interval type of run once a week, we were going to implement a new type of run. So basically the slower runs I'm saying I'm doing were 100% of my running, but kind of implementing the 80-20 rule, these new disciplined or this new run technique I was told would be the 20% where I'd get 80% of the results, right? And kind of like the smarter way now to do the speed work. So the thing is, he'd advised me to do what's known as a tempo run. So a tempo run is basically so you take your race pace, which is the fastest speed you can do for a race. It's like you're all out 100% effort. And you kind of take that back each K or, kilometer per K by about 20 to 30 seconds. So for me, that meant that my cap maximum, speed I could run at would be 4 minutes and 10 seconds. So with that in mind, I kind of had that kind of going into the first round of the City to Bay, because basically, not City to Bay, the race I'd done, because basically I saw the physio on the Monday, he cleared me to run on the race on that Wednesday. So kind of the idea of doing lots of runs up to this point is that you have to build your self-awareness for running. And another reason I advise Strava setting it up, so if you've just got a phone, you don't actually need a running watch. Now, a running watch is helpful because it will tell you your pace per K really quickly. You just check your watch and then you're done, right? But with a phone itself, and you've got the Strava on it, you can basically have the pace come up as you're running, and you see the distance and the time. So it's kind of like if you're running, like holding your phone, you can see, okay, I'm running about this pace. So you kind of have to, it's important to run and do running to basically build a self-awareness for how your speed is and understanding what pace per K is. So that kind of building that consistency is important. So what happens when, like, from January to now, like to July, I basically started running, and because I'd started running, I found it really exciting. A lot of people would ask, what are you doing your weekend? And I'm around like similar guys that are quite, positive in my work environment. And I say, look, I've been doing this. It's really exciting. And, I post on Strava like automatically, so they can kind of see and get to know that I'm actually not just, talking like out of thin air, like I'm actually following through what I'm doing, which you should do as well. So kind of it builds that consistency, and people can see you're doing it. And then by showing people and saying, oh yeah, no, I did this, took about this time, they kind of get a sense that you're someone that's actually a runner and you're kind of like quite consistent at this. And then kind of like the word gets out, and then you start having these conversations. And then before you know it, you kind of get approached. So the thing is, obviously everything's good to do in private to build that confidence and that consistency, but kind of like naturally, the more you do something and the more you find it a bit of a hobby, or it becomes part of your personality, people can actually kind of resonate with the energy that you get off that, and kind of want to support you or believe in you and kind of, inspire you. And that's kind of why it led to the email, as I put it. Basically, by doing this, someone had reached out to me and said, hey, you do a lot of running. How would you like to join our running team for this event? And that was like crazy to get that, because I was like, holy moly, you'd like me to be in your running team. Again, I don't consider myself particularly fast, but I guess compared to like the average, I'm like a little bit better than the average. So maybe that's why this person was like, well, this person runs consistently. He would be a great addition for the team. And it was kind of really nice to have that come through. And it felt like the feeling, like when you're in primary school or school and they kind of pick you for a team, and they pick you as like one of the first picks. And they're like, they want you on your team because of da 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 da. And this person that reached out to me was like, I think you're going to be one of the, the fastest people we've got, which is really like inspiring because it's like, oh, well, thank you. So it's like, you're even more motivated to be like, okay, I want to make sure that I get to that like race as fresh as I can, put my best effort in, which is kind of what I'll get to shortly in the video. But I kind of just want to dwell on, that feeling of basically doing something, logging it with the Strava and building that consistency. And so others can see that you're not like talking out of your butt, but like you're actually true to your word. And there's this funny irony because the registration for this race is $32 Australian, but because I'm in this organization, it could apply for funding for me. So part of my fee was actually subsidized by a vending machine. And it's funny because the vending machine is obviously filled with like Coca-Cola, chocolate bars, like chips and stuff, which obviously we know like isn't the best thing or, conducive for an athlete. But kind of the, I guess, vices maybe, or some, the temptations of others kind of fuel or sponsored my ability to do this, which is kind of really funny because I never really had gotten anything from this vending machine. And so now like the event itself. So another reason I was really happy to be told about this was this event has started in 1981. The whole purpose of it is to encourage fitness for people that work a 9-to-5 job and, instill a sense of teamwork, camaraderie, spurring each other on. And so this is called, and this kind of where I'm wearing this top, is called the Corporate Cup. So for me, this person that reached out to me knew I love running like 5Ks and, be a little bit more, but my goal is to run a 5K under 20 minutes. So this person's like, hey, if we do this Corporate Cup, it's 4.5Ks. I think it'd be really suited to you and you'd find it really great. So like naturally for me to do this thing, it didn't really require anything else than what I was doing. I just had to slightly, obviously, know that Wednesday's, the day I have to run fast and train for it. So it was a perfect distance. And the other important thing about having goals and sharing them and working towards something is that for me personally, I feel being in a competitive environment gives me that butterflies, the excitement and energy, which I can channel into putting my best foot forward, literally, and kind of getting the most out of myself. Often it's kind of hard to push when you're alone because not that spirit and sense of energy pushing you on, but I literally feel kind of being in a running race, I can feel the energy and excitement and buzz of everyone, which is kind of why it's so exciting. So kind of what is this event? Basically from I think 6 a.m. to 6 p.m, there's a race course set up in the city, which isn't too far away from where I work. So you get a key card, like a plastic key card, and you tap it on like this box, and that signifies you'll start. And then you do the course, the 4.5K, which I'll go through soon. And then it records your stop. So obviously it says your total, time to complete it. And that's it. But the point is you do that with your team. And so your team gets like an average time from everyone. And our team's in the division of the fastest. So we're we're on the fastest leaderboard. So we're trying to obviously put in our fastest times ever and see kind of how that scales with the other teams and other athletes as well. And the beautiful thing about this is, obviously when we do a race, we're kind of excited and nervous, but there's that feeling and thought in our head that, well, if we don't do well, it might be a long time for the next race. So we're kind of sad. But the good thing about this is it's 7 rounds and it goes like first week is the Corporate Cup round 1. And then the next week on that second Wednesday, it's a rest week. And then the week after is the second round of the Corporate Cup. And the beautiful thing about this is it kind of lets you stagger some training in and kind of condition up to getting faster. So it's like conducive for you to level yourself up literally to get faster and faster and to kind of have your body adapt to doing better and better and better, which I think is fantastic. So then I think that kind of covers how I kind of got in the team. I just basically did something I really liked, did it consistently, kind of shared to those that were interested, didn't tell them my whole life story, but just kind of shared that like it's something I really like doing. And then eventually they could kind of see that and kind of the word got out and went to the right people that me, myself, through building this and getting faster, would be someone that they actually want on their team or would be a positive influence to inspire others on the team to kick some butt and do their best. So that the next step, because I was kind of told about this in mid, I think, or early June, and it was in August, I was like, okay, I've got a bit of time to prepare for this. So this is where we know that the start date, the first round, as I've put in here, is the 7th of August. So when told this, I was thinking in my mind, well, we need to start introducing speed back. And so we work back from the date to say that we need to condition ourselves to do some faster runs. So when we get to the 4.5K, we can put in a decent time and a good start. So that was kind of the idea of how I thought, well, we need to then introduce the speed component on the Wednesday, which is when the race is itself. So our body knows Wednesday is the day to kick some ass. And I guess the best thing that kind of got me to this point was something that you should do, like be kind of athletic all year round. So when something comes up, you can kind of more the chance to jump on it and kind of not necessarily be injured. So by kind of having the discipline of doing the slower runs, the easier runs, the zone 2, the recovery runs, where I was like just kind of running almost, I think 2 to 3 times, maybe 4 times a week, just slow to build that good endurance base and conditioning for the body, meant that naturally I was kind of already suited to do the distance. I could take out one of those runs and do the race, and my body would be fine and ready to rock and roll. But through seeing this physio and kind of introducing the speed early to know that the interval runs might not be the best yet, having a tempo run instead would be more conducive for what we're trying to do, and kind of talking to the physio following up on the first race I've done, because this is kind of like just before I do the second round at the time of filming. It's clear that our strategy is now we are going to go 100% on the 3rd or 4th of September, I think it is. So it's still the next round on Wednesday is still a controlled tempo effort. So it's about kind of having that discipline and knowing that there's 7 rounds, we don't have to kill ourselves at the start, and we can be very smart about how we go about this. Which is why tempo run is something I'm glad I discovered and I'm actually doing. So then we go to the actual day, which of course is what we knew we were going to get to. So by having that in mind and working towards it, it's not as scary when we get to it. We don't freak out. That kind of, even though this is the actual day, I want to kind of take you through kind of like the day before and days leading up, where you need to like close your eyes and think of the event, the logistics, visualize how you're going to do it. So I was like invited from an email perspective to say, we're going to meet at this place at 12 noon as a team, and then we're going to jog to the race. So our bodies are warm. And then we are going to do the race as a team, or as many of us that can be available for that point in time, which I think for the first round, there were 4 of us, which is awesome. I think total team of 7 people, which is fantastic. So that was kind of like, in my mind, like, okay, well, that's how it's going to like look, and I can kind of close my eyes and visualize that. But what else is also important is the outfit. So as you can see, this is like a purple top, and I had to kind of get back into the building later, and I like running with my phone because it's important for getting into the zone, which I'll touch upon soon. And then kind of also, what shoes are we going to run? Like, I have a couple of running shoes. Like, I really am into running, so those are the shoes back there, which I'll get right now. These are the Nike Alpha Fly Gen 1s, and they're super, super lightweight. They've got a carbon sole, super lightweight foam. They're super springy, super good for like running fast. So I use those shoes when I do like races. And like, that was really cool because that's like important for me to like frame myself and be like, okay, this, day you've got to do your power ups and the video game, and you've got to kick some ass, right? And then also like shave my legs to kind of frame myself to say like, okay, it's tomorrow, like let's rock and roll. And then packing your bag the night before, because on the day, like, you don't want to be like overtly stressed, and kind of also kind of thinking about like, okay, well, the race for me personally, I like running first thing in the morning. And if we're going to run at noon, well, I have to kind of change how I go about this, right? So that means don't run first thing in the morning on Wednesday. So instead we have to preserve our energy. And also think about our fuel and nutrition. So obviously I have my breakfast, I was very strategic. I had a granola bar at about 11. So that would mean I would know that by like 12, it's digested. And then also I was having a electrolyte and sugar kind of concentration mix of water in my like water bottle. And I was like kind of sipping that intermittently. So like I'm topped up in terms of my glycogen and my glucose. So I know that because that's what's used in an athletic event. So I kind of knew that that's what I would, to rock and roll. And then as I'm jogging to the event, I'm trying to be self-aware and I could sense that, oh, I really need to pee because I'm nervous. And so then obviously I knew that, okay, well, I need to pee. So I go and pee and then I'm like still a bit nervous. And then kind of I'm like, well, let's be smart here. We've peed. We know our pace. We've thought about this. We've got our outfit. We've got our shorts, our phones in our pocket. And kind of, we know we have to be steady in the race. We can't, run off really quick. We have to be steady. Like the rabbit, the tortoise and the hare. Or as I also say, don't be a dickhead at the start. So the important thing of having the phone and leveraging this is I have music. And what I did was, coming out of the toilet right near the start line, I'm going to be honest with you, I was really nervous because I haven't done a race like this in a while. This is the first time doing a corporate cup. So I was like, I don't know how this is going to go. But what I did is I looked on Spotify and I found, my favorite video game music, or it's like a video game music mix. And I looked through until I could find about 4 or 5 songs that I'm like, okay, these are the songs I really like and will help me get into the zone and the flow state. So when I'm doing the run and it gets a little bit difficult, I don't have as much of kind of the thoughts come up to me that like, you can't do it, it hurts, let's give up. But more so like the relaxation of like the awareness of my body so I can feel my speed. I'm not going too fast, I'm calming myself down. I'm kind of in my own little world. Like there's heaps of people out there, but everything kind of is more like relaxed and toned down. And that's kind of why like it was super important and I feel really, really helped me, which is now why we are going to transition to Strava. And I'll show you posted talking this whole time, exactly like visually what's going on. If this wants to, no, just, yeah, that's fine. So this is the actual, so 4.5 Ks, 18 minutes and the pace. We'll get to this. Okay. So here we can see, these are the, what we call kilometer splits. So every K and the speed I went, and this is kind of like the fluctuation of how quick my pace got. And oh yes, obviously the higher up we go here, it's really, really quick, which I was, a little bit nervous, but luckily I kind of, slowed it down pretty quickly and kind of remembered, because it's like I haven't really ran at 410 for a while. So I was like trying to figure out what that speed feels like. So by having that self-awareness, it's important. So about here, I was a bit quick, but then kind of slowing it down. So let's go to the kind of K by K breakdown. And the thing is, for the first round, I kind of knew where it started, but I didn't also know, like visually, I didn't know where the turns would be. Like I wasn't 100% sure. I wasn't as confident. So that's why it was important for me to kind of like almost treat this as like a reconnaissance run to kind of see where things are. And kind of like in the start, kind of coming through here, like, okay, I can sort of see the route, but then I wasn't sure when we turn back around. So we kind of get to this K here. So here we're going, this is probably our slowest one, part of the run, because I was probably more uncertain and trying to really hold that pace steady, because kind of the prior K, I'd gone a bit quicker. So here I'm going a bit slower to kind of balance it out. But then as soon as I kind of get to like here, so we've got the third K. And the cool thing is like, in my mind, I'm like, well, it's 4.5K, so the halfway point is 2.25, right? So kind of mentally, it was so much easier to do than a 5K, obviously because it's shorter. So that meant it was kind of easier to hold the pace. But kind of where we got to here, I was able to kind of, because I could see that we were turning around about this point, I knew that, okay, I know where the finish line is because it's basically where the start is. You can see people come up at a certain point. It kind of helped me to really dial into that. So I guess like, look, this is actually, to be honest, like when you want to run a race like this distance, you want the first half to be to be slower than the second. So I think we basically achieved the negative split. I mean, this was a bit quick, but that's slower and kind of so is that. But these two last ones are the quickest. So that's kind of good. So we kind of want to keep some of that energy and kind of be mindful. And I guess probably what helped me tap into that was the fact that as soon as we kind of crossed here in the I guess the fourth K mark, I'm like, okay, well, I know exactly the path now. Like, I know to rock and roll. And we've passed the halfway point, so the rest is just easy. So I know I can do this. And then, like, the last bit's 500 meters. So, of course, you can do that. Like, come on, like, you know. So that kind of gets us to the finish. And I guess what I could have done better, I could have probably put my headphone case, I left it at work, or I kind of took it with me. I could have maybe given my like key pass, or kind of figured that out another way, so I could kind of free up my pockets. I could have ran with running tights instead of running shorts, like aerodynamically. But the thing is, like, I'm pretty happy with how this went in terms of pace, because you'll note that, the physio said about 4:10. So, I mean, these are a little bit quicker, but it's kind of in the wheelhouse of. So when you average it out overall, we can see that we got 4.8, which is pretty close to what we were aiming to do as a tempo run. So I consider this like mostly a win. So now we'll get to the results, and this is like really exciting. So you'll see the top bloke is 16 minutes and 4 seconds, which is about, I think, 3 minutes 30, 3:35. And when we scroll down, you'll find out that your boy is actually not too far off the pace, and was actually, for a first run, 25th out of 782 participants. So pretty good effort, right? So I was super hyped to get this result. I was like, no freaking way. Like, and I guess that's the thing, like, by building consistency, by doing something that not a lot of people do, you actually, like, and by training consistently, you actually get to a point where you're faster than you realize, and you're faster than the average, which is why I think, honestly, I placed like kind of so far up here. And of course, this is like for men and people that participate in the distance. So it's kind of like already taken the whole cohort of people that did this and kind of, filtering it into that. So I'm pretty proud of like the fact that we got to that point. And basically, like, to say that was like breaking this all down, it's really cool to see how it all comes together. So again, the beautiful thing about this is we've got another 6 rounds to kick some butt and to build our speed up and to feel confident, to train, to make sure we don't injure ourselves, and to be really, really steady, right? So you've got multiple opportunities. So it's kind of like, not like what Eminem says, like, you're one shot, one opportunity. You've kind of got many opportunities, but still taking them seriously and leveraging from that situation of being in the competition. But also, probably what I haven't touched on as much is actually being with friends. So when we started out, we started all out at the same like spot, same time. So we're all kind of like, one of the guys tried to stay with me for a bit to hold pace. And then I was trying to like catch up to the person that reached out to me, the leader. And I was only like 6 seconds away from him. So I was considering like pretty good, because he finished 23rd, I was 25th. So that was kind of really cool. And then another thing that I like is pretty funny. Juice Station Motivation. So the sponsors of this is actually a juice company. So a good thing of kind of keeping this in your mind is when it does get tough for the race, even though you're in the flow or zone, or you kind of got this situation where something comes up, it's like, well, if I get to the end, there's a reward. There's a nice bit of sugar fruit juice, or a juice which is full of energy and excitement, and it will just how refreshing will that be after a hard effort? So kind of like that motivation to kind of know that, okay, you can do this and you're not far away. And then I guess another important thing is being smart about this. Like, look, I could have probably not done any speed runs before this and just gone all out at this race. And that could have actually resulted in me injuring myself, or like pacing the race incorrectly. But by kind of knowing the start date and working backwards from it, having someone on board like a trusted physio who's also a runner, being honest with your goals and what you're trying to do, you can actually, it's better to be patient and plan for it, and then know that at a certain point in time you'll have the opportunity to kick some ass. Another important thing about this race at this point in time is it's perfect conditioning for the City to Bay, which you'll see that medal back there is actually something I participated in last year and wasn't feeling as good condition wise. But this time, doing a race like this, I feel is really going to help prime me for this race. So it's kind of really exciting as like the running calendar in Adelaide, to know that like good things are on the horizon and that like you can do it. So I guess I'm really leveraging off the benefit of kind of this event and how it kind of sets you up for other things. So you kind of like, like dominoes, one hits the other and the other, like a flow on effect. It's a positive snowball. And that's kind of really exciting. So I guess my word to all of you is to kind of, if you can, find an event like this and sign up for it because it's amazing. And if you're actually in Adelaide, reach out to me or gather some friends and kind of start talking about this. So next year you can show up or even contact me. Maybe we can form our own team of people that, as part of this cohort of Conquering Mountains, Conquering Life, listening to video game music and kind of like leveling your own character up would be super, super cool. Like, wouldn't that be nuts? But I guess if I was to sum up this whole video into kind of like one conclusion, is that simply leverage competition to conquer mountains and conquer life. It's so much easier to go up that mountain and conquer that mountain when there's people cheering for you. There's people that believe in you. There's your teammates that are also trying to conquer that mountain. That makes you want to push something deep inside you as a man, that competitive testosterone, that kind of spirit to kick some butt and put your best foot forward. It's you versus you, but also there's other people that like you converse and, visualize. So that's the thing. So when I was doing this race, I passed so many people, and just by being patient, like, I could have just gone all out and then, I would have passed people, but then if I blew up, they would have passed me. But by being steady, and that kind of resulted in me passing someone that was, holding a pretty decent pace. But again, by me being steady and then waiting for the right opportunity, like eventually I overtook him after the halfway point, the negative split, because I knew I gave myself permission that I could go a little bit quicker. So those little things help to kind of factor in the fact that, you can do it. So if we kind of set up how to get to an event like this, well, one, we'll go back to the introduction. You have to get to this point where you're starting from. Start a Strava account, start slowly, build it up, do your endurance, do your zone 2 runs where you can kind of talk to a friend, listen to a podcast. You have to, log it on Strava. People have to see that you're running and you're someone that actually can finish running races. So you have to kind of prime your body to be ready for an event. And then getting into a team will naturally come from that by kind of sharing your circle, what you're doing, and the universe will conspire to help you for that. And then also thinking of getting ready for that race, you kind of have to condition yourself for a bit of speed and getting ready. So I would recommend from this, tempo runs are fantastic because they're kind of not as extreme as an interval run, but they're not so easy as an easy run. And they kind of get you ready for that and then kind of ease you into a race like this. And then also preparing for the race the day before and the day of and having extra stuff. Like on the day it was super sunny and luckily I'd packed some sunglasses. So that again helped me to kind of filter out the sun coming in and like breaking me out of my flow. So during the race, I'm this stylish bloke with prescription sunglasses, which aren't really running sunglasses, but doesn't matter, we get the job done, right? And then kind of feeling that excitement from checking the race day and the results and being with your team and inspiring helps you to push forward and do it again and again and again and want to be part of that competition, harnessing that nervous energy or everything around you into kind of like such a pinpoint and concentrated, thing to leverage conquering the mountain better than you thought, crossing that finish line faster than you ever thought possible. And yeah, and again, the results, 7 rounds. So there's another 6 opportunities to kick some butt and just keep building. And then eventually knowing, being patient to know that soon on the horizon, I can go all out. So how cool is that? So as always, I'll leave you with, if you like this type of video, let me know, comment, subscribe, tell me your Strava, drop it in the comments, conquer mountains, conquer life. Let's go. I'll update you on how these races go. Thank you so much.